So this is episode 1, Walks with Chef Heather, aka my mom.
Nice.
Here with my mother at Panniken in Encinitas, California. We got ourselves cappuccino, Americano for mother.
With half and half. Cheers.
Cheers, mama.
Cheers.
Good to spend quality time with you. Love you.
Love you too.
And we also got some banana bread and what do we get here? We got a cheese
Bacon
scone. A little sweet and savory action today.
I like the savory.
Not gluten-free, but we'll take it. And I just burned my tongue.
It's very hot.
Woo!
It's very,
Holy
very hot.
crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I put a lot of milk in mine.
Dude, that is so hot. Wow. That's like, usually when you go to coffee places, they don't give you as much heat. That one was scalding hot.
The foam was deceiving.
You can probably see the burn mark. Oh my God.
And taking a little break from cooking today to be with.
For those that don't know, my mother is a private chef in San Diego, so if you need amazing catering, amazing high quality meals that are healthy, organic, any food recommendations you need, best meals, better than any restaurant in San Diego, is this woman's cooking. She's been cooking her whole life, and you're how old now?
I'm not telling anyone.
64?
No.
64?
No,
Yeah.
not yet.
On her 64th this month.
Coming up.
It's okay, age is just a number, guys.
Yeah, I have a hard time wrapping my head around that number for some reason. The 50s were easier, but 60s. How many years have we been doing this, going to coffee together?
Getting coffee together?
Yeah, I did it when you worked at Property Showcase. Remember I used to come down to Encinitas? We go out for coffee?
I mean, we've been doing it on and off now for probably,
6 years?
I'd say 6-7 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Probably longer. And I always look forward to these moments.
It's good for me too. Know what's going on in your life.
Yep. So,
Sometimes your kids don't always tell you what's going on in their life, so you got to
Yeah.
go for coffee.
what's going on with my life? Business, finishing graduate school, trying to find what I enjoy doing. That's what I've been thinking about a lot lately.
Yeah.
Like, aside from like paying my bills, doing all those things, I feel like I'm not trying. I don't like the word trying because I feel like trying is like failing because it's like you're not actually doing it, but I feel like I'm discovering right now like what I actually enjoy doing, because for my whole life, for those that don't know, I played competitive soccer my whole life, played some college, and that was my life. I wanted to go professional, got into partying, things like that. That probably took me away from my focus, and a bunch of other things that just took me out of like my love for soccer. But now it's like rediscovering what like lights me up on like a day-to-day. That also hopefully can integrate with making a living too. So it's like I love chiropractic and what it's done for my health and my life, but sometimes I'm not necessarily enjoying the process that much of like doing chiropractic. It feels like work to me.
Yeah.
It's not, and some people would be like, well, Chandler, you're not gonna do, like, your life's work doesn't always need to be fun. That's what some people's argument would be, but I I don't know, I disagree with it a little bit. I think I see the people that I looked up to in life, there's no separation between their work and their play. So it's like they love what they do for work,
Yeah.
and that is their play. And they can do that for hours and hours a day. And that's kind of what I'm learning from this book that I'm currently reading by Naval Ravikant, who's a billionaire who loves the work that he does, but to others he said it will look like work. So he just enjoys the work that he does, and it happens to also be involved with tech, and he makes a lot of money doing that. I'm like kind of in that boat of like, I don't want to be glued to a computer all day, but I find myself gravitated towards these tools and web design and video content and writing and all that stuff and coaching online and things like that. I just find myself doing those things naturally. And sometimes it does feel like work, other times it doesn't. I think there's a balance, but I don't know, like, what do you think? Like, what's your life perspective on, like, because you've been someone who's done like a lot of different artistic things, like painting, and followed like painting and doing murals professionally, and then doing having your own jewelry business, and then now you're a professional chef catering like at a high level. So like, I feel like you've been a multifaceted entrepreneur with multiple different skills, mostly hands-on stuff.
Mostly, yeah.
So like, are you looking at things that are like a need in the marketplace and then you're going and doing that? Or are you just finding things that you're passionate about and then you just follow that and then people need help with it?
Well, honestly, with the cooking, it started out that I was just, when you guys were still living at home, I was just making family dinners for people and charging very little. I wasn't making much. I was just charging, $80 for a family dinner for 4 people, which is ridiculous now. There's no way I can do it for that. But I did it because I really loved it and I just enjoyed it, and I really didn't care how much money I made. And then as word of mouth got around for what I was doing, I started getting asked to do bigger things like dinner parties, events. And so I tried to stretch myself to, see the bigger picture and do bigger things that I could make more money at and, express my creativity more. And I enjoy doing that, but I've always been kind of a one-man band, so I put a lot of pressure on myself for everything to be perfect, and that can be stressful. And now I'm more just cooking for a select sort of few patients, or not patients, but clients who have special dietary needs. And they've reached out to me because they can't just go to the grocery store and buy something that's gluten-free, dairy-free, without a lot of chemicals in it, etc. So now I'm kind of specializing more, which is more involved and more expensive and more time-consuming because I have to research everything, but it's actually more interesting to me. So it's gone in different waves. There's times when I really love it, and then there's times where I have to take a break, because you can get burnt out doing what you love too. So
how do you not get burnt out?
Don't take on more than I know I can handle.
See, I'm different from you that way, where I take on way more than I can chew. And that's what leads me to burnout.
Yeah. Sometimes I do that too, and then I regret it, and then I'm just like, I can't.
You remember the mic?
Oh, I forgot about the mic.
You can take it off if you want me to put on your other shirt.
Yeah.
Here, switch.
It's getting hot in this sweatshirt. The most, of all the different creative things that I've done, the
most successful in terms of like money?
Yeah, the most successful was probably
your painting, right?
The painting business, yeah, because I could take on pretty big projects when I was able to paint.
Like $25,000 projects, right?
Yeah, and I could hire, and for those types of jobs, I always hired prep people and tapers and people to get everything ready for me before I arrived to do the work, the murals. But that was probably the most lucrative business. But
it was hard on your body.
Harder on the body, climbing ladders all day. I was super fit when I ran that company because I was just it's physical exercise all day long, and great rewards monetarily. So I really enjoyed the creative outlet when I was a painter. But yeah, it took its toll on my body, so I had to do something less where I'm not on my feet all day long, you know?
Well, do you have any regrets about your passions or following anything, or do you feel
Yeah.
like everything was meant to be and you fell into each thing? Or like kind of like you touched on, like doing it all yourself. Do you feel like
Yeah.
you currently or in the past wish that you had a team?
Yeah, I think that, and also I regret that I didn't create businesses that I then sold. Like when I was done painting and I couldn't do it anymore,
Yeah.
I just closed up shop. Whereas I could have easily sold that business,
Yeah.
and it was worth something, but I didn't have that business mindset to know how to turn it over to somebody else. I had tons of clients that I could have basically, I could have sold that business for something, and I didn't.
Yeah.
And I had all the equipment that I invested in. I had a lot of equipment that just ended up, going in bins in my garage. And the same with the jewelry. That's the only thing is I have created businesses that I could easily have sold. I could have sold my jewelry business. I could have sold my painting business, or at least
But that's where you're kind of like an artist. Like you don't think about the business side, which is why you're so good at what you do.
I was so
And
focused.
that's where you need someone on your side who's like that business mindset.
Yeah. I definitely needed a coach to show me how to create a business that then I could sell when I'm tired of it,
Yeah. And whenever I wanted to help you with that, I was always busy with something.
Exactly. And same with Hannah,
I was always busy with soccer or school or whatever, but I always knew that you were the talent. You just needed that business. But not to like look back in regrets or anything like that. Like
I don't have any regrets because I have enjoyed everything that I've done. I enjoyed running our chiropractic office for 10 years too. I was excited to get up in the morning every day and go to the office because I really thrived in the office environment, and I love taking care of people and being like the front person up front. And it really helped your dad stay organized, to have someone that was organized up front. And I dealt with the money. He didn't have to deal with, payments and stuff like that. It was always, he just would refer it to me. And so it took the pressure off of him of having to talk to people about money. He just focused on their care.
Yeah. Well, how do you focus on your work though? I guess the thing that I'm struggling with is like, how do I focus on the creative stuff that I enjoy doing? But then when I'm trying not to think about the bills and all that stuff. So it's like, it can take away from the creative fun that like, I ultimately want to do things that are fun.
Sure.
But I find myself thinking about the money because it's like, it's just a reality of life. So it's like, how do you find that separation when you're working for your clients of like doing the work in this loving state that you just love to do it, but then you're like, your mind is off from the money. I think that you do a really good job of that. So like, do you have like a mindset for that, or what do you do?
I think it's just that I know when it comes to the cooking and for other people, I know what I'm doing is providing a great service for them because they don't have time, they don't want to cook, they don't want to think about it when they come home, they just want to open their fridge and see everything's organized, it's all ready to go, all I have to do is take this out of the fridge and heat it up. So I know that has huge value for people who don't cook. And so I feel very comfortable charging what I charge. Never has anybody asked me to, like, a lot of times I just say, here's what it's going to be this week, and after I figure out the cost of ingredients and my hourly time and all that stuff, I just say, okay, this is what it is. I've very rarely had anybody ask me, well, how did you calculate that? Or how do you break that down? Because they're just happy to have it. you know?
Yeah.
And they think about what, especially now, they think about what it would cost them to go to a restaurant with a family of 4. And
Which is what, probably like, at least for family of 4, I mean, it's like $50 a person, so probably at least $200, $300.
Yep. And I'm going to go to their house and I'm going to make them 4 to 6 family dinners. And, you know, I do all the shopping for them. I buy all the ingredients. I prep everything. I cook it in their kitchen. It's labeled and organized with reheating instructions. And it's like, where are you going to get that? You know? And
No, you have a very high-level skill set that you've created for yourself that you just did out of pure enjoyment, but you become so specialized at what you do that you don't realize how good you are at what you do, and other people will pay you a lot of money for that.
yeah, they usually don't question it. And unless, you know, for some reason, you know, their weekly fee jumps $100 or $200, then they might be like, oh, it was only this much last week. And I'll just be like, yeah, well, you chose all seafood, you know? Like, so, yeah, I've never really had anybody that's complained about the pricing, so.
So, like, is there anything that you need with your business right now? Like, do you feel like you still like doing it solo, or do you like look for a team and want to expand and things like that, or are you just comfortable right now with where it is?
I think I'm comfortable with where it is, and but if there was like a student, like a high school student or someone who was interested in the culinary arts that, you know, wanted to come and do prep and learn how to chop and, you know, prep things, that's the kind of help I would love. Yeah, not necessarily the cooking part of it, but just prepping.
Somebody to prep
like,
stuff.
I would love to be able to hand someone the bag of carrots and say, peel and dice all of these, you know?
Yeah, and then someone doing that will learn a lot from just
Or,
cooking, right?
Here's a bag of onions. Peel them, dice them, put them in freezer bags, label them, date, put them in my freezer. That's all you have to do for the next 2 hours.
Yeah.
Stuff like that I spend hours doing.
Yeah, prepping is probably everything.
Prepping. Yeah, any chance I get, I'm prepping. So,
Yeah.
because I don't like to show up at somebody's house with grocery bags full of stuff that's not washed. I prefer that I've already got all my recipes figured out, so I show up with my cooler and with everything already chopped in the right sizes that I need, blah, blah, blah. And that's what they love. They love that I'm not making a huge mess. Cleaning stuff, you know, because then they don't feel like they're paying for that time. But they are, indirectly. I'm doing it at home.
Okay, so I want to segue a little bit the conversation, like since you've recently, I guess you could say in the last, how many years? Has it been 5 years? Both your parents have passed. So
The last 6 years.
How is life different for you now that your parents have both passed? Like, what do you notice for yourself? Any new perspectives, things like that?
Well, I definitely think about them a lot, and I realize how much time I used to spend talking to my dad, more so than my mom, because of my mom having dementia in the last few years.
Yeah.
But when my dad first passed 6 years ago, that was a really big void for me, because anytime I wanted to run something by him, I just picked up the phone, you know.
Yeah, you always regularly called your dad.
I called him probably 3 to 4 times a week at least, and he knew he could always call me for anything. So
I know you miss them.
I miss that, yeah. And I miss my mom's presence. But there is relief for me in knowing that she's not suffering anymore. And I think that was harder, to see her suffering and wanting to go, and her body was just strong and it kept going, you know, even when her mind was gone. My dad, I feel like he kind of got cheated, because he was in great shape, and then he just had that sudden stroke, and then everything went downhill. And
he was on medication.
Yeah, he was. But Yeah, my life has changed a lot. There's definitely an empty feeling at times that they're not there anymore. You feel a bit like an orphan, and I try to reach out more to my brothers and sister. But I realized since my parents passed that I was always the one that tried to keep everybody connected. I was always the one planning the family reunions, planning the birthday dinners for my dad or my mom or whatever. I always tried to get us to do things together. And I was probably more interested in that than the rest of my family is, unfortunately. I mean,
Well, maybe you're just maybe the organizer in that.
well, I think it's because I have kids, and I want them to see what you're doing.
Yeah.
I want them to, you know, be part of your life.
That's true. I guess you're the only sibling.
Yeah, I'm the only one with kids.
Yeah.
I mean, Mark has, I shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
Mark has Grace. But yeah, life without parents is a strange feeling.
Can you prepare for it, or it's not really like something you can prepare for?
No, you can't. I couldn't. I had. No, it's not something to. You don't know how you're going to feel until it happens. You know. I just always.
And no one really knows like what that feels like until it happens, right? Like you can't. It's hard to empathize with somebody that has gone through that when you don't really know.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm always trying to emphasize with Dad is that, you know, he still has both his parents. And I sometimes feel jealous because he's on the phone with them at night and I hear him talking to them and I'm like, I really miss that.
Yeah.
You know?
And he's usually like bantering about something stupid. And it's like, why don't you just enjoy, you know, and part of that is his enjoyment is talking about random politics or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's funny how like, it's like a lot of conversations we have with people, even including our parents, it's like a lot of times like superficial stuff that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you had like enough deep conversations with your parents? Or do you feel like...
I definitely had deep conversations with my dad.
Yeah.
Probably not so much with my mom. Like, there was times when I was going through difficult things in my life, and my mom, I always knew my mom supported me, but her way of supporting me was always, she'd just go, I'll pray for you, you know? Like, or if I was struggling with something, she'd be like, let's pray right now on the phone, you know, dear Lord. She would just go right into a prayer. And so, but that was her way, because she never tried to deal with any problems herself. She always took everything to God. She was always like, you know.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Just pray.
She always felt that everything was God's will. So if this is what, even when she went into the home, she was like, oh, it's different here. But she wouldn't complain. She'd be just like, this is my life now. This is what must be what God wants for me, you know.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you feel you were raised by your mom who was very religious, and then your dad was kind of just seems like, I don't even know what you could say.
Well, my dad was very religious too when they were married.
But he didn't pray every meal and stuff like that, would you say?
When my parents were married, yes, they did. They always said grace. We always had to sit down for dinner, 5 o'clock, the whole family. Family dinners were important. My mom always made sure of that. And it was, you sit down, you pray, you always give thanks, and then you have your meal. And then the kids help clean up. You know, it's like mom did all the cooking, we did the cleanup.
Yeah.
And my dad was raised Protestant Christian, and he was very involved in the church when he was married to my mom. He used to sing in the choir, he used to teach Sunday school. I mean, he was a regular churchgoer, but everything changed when they got divorced. For some reason, he, you know, fell away from it.
Do you feel like yourself called to like any religion these days, or do you believe in a higher power or God? Or
I do believe in God. I do believe in a higher power. I believe that, you know, I believe in forgiveness. I do pray, usually when I'm by myself.
Mm-hmm.
I pray for protection over you guys, you and Hannah and Trinity and Joe. Just always, I don't obviously attend a church to do that. I just feel like I can pray anytime I want.
Mm.
You know?
Do you feel like, to get a little deeper, do you think that there is a separate God, or do you think that it's, there is no separation, like more...
Like God is in all of us? Is that what you think?
God is in all of us, a oneness. Or do you believe that there is a separation?
That's a hard one, because I was really raised to believe that God was separate, right? So that was really, drilled into me from the time I was born.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard for me to say I am God and God is in me. I have always felt that God was a separate entity, that I'm not more powerful than him. He's more powerful, and that was how I was raised.
Yeah, no, it's a super interesting topic. Like I find myself in belief that if God created us all and God is within all of us, then we are God, and there is no superiority complex there. It's just a one consciousness. But then I also have felt like at times, like in my deepest spiritual moments, like, oh, there is a superior power that is not exactly me, but feels more, it's like that alignment is there, but it might not necessarily be 100% me. But I don't know, because I go back and forth sometimes where it's like, like, I think it's like the human dilemma. It's like we're sentient beings and we have this conscious, like, awareness of our own thoughts, whereas, like, maybe other beings on this earth, like trees and stuff like that, are different. And it's like, what is truth? I think that's ultimately like what humans are seeking, is truth. And we tend to use our perceptions and our senses to try to figure out what is most true. And that can also run us like completely astray down these paths that don't like necessarily make any sense. And that's why people lean into like the Bible and Christ and things like that, because it's a framework and it's stories that are the most ancient stories that we have that create more meaning for people. And I don't know where I'm even going on with this, but it's like, I can see where people lean into the Bible to have a deeper meaning for life. But then I can also see the spiritual side of more of this, you could say, Eastern philosophy of the oneness, that there is no separation, and that I choose to be happy in this moment, and everything that I am seeing is a reflection of myself, and everything is a choice ultimately. And some people will argue with that, like, oh, like, what about kids in Africa, or other situations you could say in life that are not favoring those type of people or those situations. But yeah, I don't know, there's also the karma of life, and what is your karma, if you believe in that. There's so many different like ideologies that can give you different perspectives, but at the end of the day, I think, and this is something I'm learning from people like Naval Ravikant, is like, you get to choose how you interpret the world. It's at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who is telling you one thing, or this is the one issue that I have with religion, is they're throwing it down your throat. Like, I have people reach out to me and directly like comment on my posts, or even send me direct messages, and they're like, well, you're feeling down because you're not following God. You're chasing things that are, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, there's people who follow the word of God and they say that God is an abundant God, and then there's people that say that God is a God of lack and saying you should give all your money away and you should just be poor. You shouldn't want anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if that's the case, then you should just go become a monk
Yeah.
and just basically throw your entire life away. Nothing matters
Yeah.
to you. Just go be a monk.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Versus like pretty much like saying, no, God is a God of abundance and he wants us all to thrive in this life, but it's ultimately a choice for how we carry ourselves and the steps that we take in order to receive those signs from God or universe or source.
Right.
And if you're not open and you're just depressed and mopey all the time, it makes sense that, right? It's like you're not going to have those doors open up to you.
Yeah.
Those opportunities.
Yeah.
It's like, would you rather hang out with somebody who's negative and down in the dumps all the time, or somebody who's positive, uplifting, and optimistic?
Right.
Those are choices.
Yeah.
Like you're not just born into this world. Like a baby's not just born into this world saying like, oh, like I'm depressed and miserable.
Right.
So I know that was a long like rabbit hole, as I like to do. But
Well,
I don't know, what are your thoughts?
I've had things that have happened to me, you know, in my life where I've thought it was such a terrible blow that I thought, is God punishing me? You know, did I do something wrong? Like when I lost Tori and, you know, I had to go through that whole experience.
Yeah.
I remember thinking God was punishing me for something I did.
And for those that don't know, Tori was your first
Pregnancy, which
that was a miscarriage.
it went to 8 months gestation, and then the baby died at 32 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
32 weeks.
But did you, and it's easy to lean into that and say, oh, like that's God punishing me.
But I see now
That's not God
that was
punishing
God. That was maybe a test as to how much I really wanted to be a mom. And if anything, that whole experience made me so much stronger as a mother.
you. Yeah.
So much more appreciative for human life. Like, as soon as that happened, it was like, I want to get pregnant again. Like, there was just, I'm going to go full steam ahead because now I know, okay, things don't always work out the way you want. Things can be taken away from you, and it's not your timing, or it's not your plan for it to happen, but it happened. So now what are you going to do? And
Exactly. It's like you took on, instead of reacting to it and saying, oh, poor me, I'm never going to have kids again.
No,
you took on the mindset, which is a choice ultimately, that you said, no, I'm going to have more kids and see this as an opportunity for growth.
Yeah, it made me all the more determined. Once I got over the grief, I was just all the more determined that I was going to be a mom. You know, one way or another. If I wasn't successful getting pregnant again, I would have adopted, or, you know, I would have done whatever it takes to be a mom.
So where does that come from? Like, how did you have that shift? Was it somebody in your life, or was it a moment, or was it, like, to dissect that a little deeper, like what was it that gave you the strength to push on even though you had that like really painful? Was it just the desire to have kids ultimately, or?
And probably because I grew up with 3 siblings, and my mom was a great mom, and up until my parents got divorced, I had an amazing childhood, and I had tons of cousins, and we always had so much fun, and I was like, I wanted to, you know, bring more people into the world, and I wanted to have.
And that's why I'm here.
I wanted to have more than 2. But
Yeah.
I got a late start, so, you know, I'm happy with, obviously, the fact that I have a son and a daughter. But I would have had 4 kids if I could have. I would have been like Lola with 4.
Thanks for being so strong. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. That's the craziest thing too, I think about, like, because like your decision right there is what brought me into the world, and it's like if you had waited, or maybe like allowed that grief to take a hold of you longer, one day could have made a difference in me not being here.
Yeah.
Which is like the craziest thing to me. That's like, I think
Yeah.
the mystery of life is like how each moment matters.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a powerful message, is like take every moment as a moment to like learn and grow from, and see everything as, even if there's no good or bad, it just is. Like, you didn't see that moment as a bad moment. You saw it as a moment that needed to happen in order to experience something different, something beyond that horizon.
Well, and I think, you know, grateful to Lola that she encouraged me after Hannah was 17 months. She said, if you're going to have another one, you should do it soon. And Hannah was 17 months, and I said, you think so? And she goes, oh yeah, Hannah needs to have a brother or a sister. You don't want to have an only child. So guess what? I said to Howard, said to your dad, I want to get pregnant again. I'm ready. And 1 month later,
So
I
it
was
was all
pregnant.
Lola that got me
Lola
here.
was the one pushing me.
My grandma got me.
Yeah, she
got
was
me
the
here.
one saying, no, you don't want Hannah to be an only child. And so then
Thank you, Lola.
I was like,
R.I.P.
all right, Mom, we're going to start trying. And literally, when I told your dad I wanted to get pregnant, I got pregnant
Yeah.
that month. So there was a lot of intention there. You were totally planned.
Well, I'm sure we could talk for hours and hours as the train goes by. But
Yeah.
that was a good chat. First episode with Coffee Chats with Chef Heather, aka my mom.
All right, cut.
I love how she's wearing the Tito's handmade vodka sunglasses.
Cheapos, El Cheapo.
El Cheapos.
I'm El Cheapo because I lose all my sunglasses.
Hey, me too, back at you.
These are probably terrible for my eyes.
This coffee is really good. It's got a little sweet. I think it's the coconut milk in here, but
Oh, it's the coconut milk for sure.
Panniken. Really
By the
good
way,
coffee.
that seafood chowder that I made you there's no dairy, it's coconut milk in it.
Oh, you're an angel.
You want to walk back and have your banana bread later?
Yeah, I don't think I need to eat all of this right now. Got a loaf. All right. Cheers.
Cheers.